goodness, it has probably been a little over a year since you have seen me in this capacity of like recording a video or saying much of anything, honestly. A lot has transpired. Life be life, and for all of us, I'm no different. I had a baby. She is about to be almost 6 months. And wow, having a baby at an older age is very different. As many of you know, my first child, who's almost 12, had severe postpartum depression after having her. And so this experience was actually significantly different, not only just in terms of support, in terms of financially, just a lot of different things, and just even my body, right? And so a lot of us, don't talk about what it's like having a baby when you're pretty much almost 40, and it's like your body is a little bit different, right? And so I'm actually pretty nervous because it's been a long time that I've poured out any thoughts, any opinions, perspective, whatever you want to call it, in reference to just putting any type of message out there. And so essentially, just getting to the point, I wanted to get back to the message, right? And because for a long time, when I say that, I mean that oftentimes people who are creatives, people who consider themselves influencers, people who feel like they have something to say, whatever that looks like, we get caught up sometimes in the metrics instead of the message. And so for me, for my experience, I got caught up in the metrics. I got caught up in losing the purpose and the foundation in why I started, and why I started actually being transparent and sharing my stories and providing that authenticity in terms of who I am and what I think and what I believe, and the initial true foundation to help people, to really see them through times of darkness, to help people overcome various circumstances, to show people that there's so much relatability between all of us in this world, and oftentimes sharing your experience can really help others depending on the situation that they too are going through. And so for many years, if you've seen me, you've seen that I have constantly put out things with the intention of providing insight and helping people. I mean, it was from the curvy executive to thriving in your now. I mean, I've had so many different variables that I have put out because I have constantly been in this search in terms of my identity, of what that message was supposed to look like. And so one of the things that, just as a point that I did wrong, was that I always got focused in the details of what it should look like, what it should be called, how the website should be, all of these different things, rather than really focusing on just honing in on the craft and on the message. And I would get so distracted and wanting to make things, I guess, perfect, right? So owning that perfection that a lot of times exists within a lot of us. And then as a creative, no matter what it is that you're creative in, the art that you feel, you're proud of that, and you want it to sound or look a certain way. And so then I had went into fearless influence, and that was definitely really just fueled with so much passion, because I just was like on this roll of just great energy, of just so many different things that I'm like, I want to help people overcome this fear. I would have so many people hit me up and be like, I'm just debilitated in this fear of this or of that. And so I was like, why don't I gather these people together and just speak with how they've overcome different things. And then I transitioned into just no longer being present about the message. And it wasn't intentional. It was just that I started really, I guess, falling into the trap of what was being sold, in reference to when you look on social media, when you read different things, and I felt like I had to have strategy. I had to have content creation. I needed a content calendar, and working a full-time job, because I do work a full-time job as well as my other organizations and things that I do. I hire people to help me with like this content creation, how this should look and how that should look. And let me tell you, that is money. For real, for real. And although being able to write off certain expenses, it was just honestly a waste, because again, I got so wrapped up in, the metrics instead of the message, that I lost the passion. I lost the intensity of what this started for and what it was about. And so when you go from a place where you're initially trying to help people and then you move into considering on what that looks like in terms of how many people are viewing, if you can get a payout, you want to see a return on your investment. You want to feel like everything you've poured into something wasn't in vain. And I know oftentimes people go in, especially myself, with that intention of, these things don't matter. When you start putting countless time in and out, those things start to matter. And you start to hear certain experts who are saying, if you're not converting, what are you really doing? And I think that, at least for me, it's like you want to have an answer. Like you want to feel like it matters, like it's something significant, when ultimately the reality is that it don't have to matter to nobody but you. Whatever it is that you're working on and doing, it doesn't have to convert into anything if that is not where your passion lies. And so, for me, not staying in track of what I felt was intended in terms of my purpose led me down a path of a lot of money wasted, a lot of time wasted, a lot of missed opportunities in being present in certain moments, because every place that I would go, whether I'm overseas, whatever I'm doing, all of this is content. And they tell you that any conference, anything you've been at, they always talk to you about how so many moments of your life are so pivotal and so content based, and to capture that. And so oftentimes what I've seen is that you can get so caught up in capturing the moment that you actually miss being present for the moment. And then once again, the message that you intended now is not about a message. It's about the metric. It's about how many plays on the reel. It's about if you can get a payout. It's about how can you transfer this into viewership, into likes, into fans, into whatever it is that that you may be seeking, or that you want to get from the work that you're putting in, for the content that you're creating, because it is a lot of work. Content creation is not just easy breezy. No, it is a lot of work, especially depending on the avenue and the lane that you're in terms of the content that you're creating. And so, I had this incredible run with American Therapy, the premier podcast for Black mental health. We had this huge HBCU tour, and then all of our co-hosts, we kind of just went our separate ways, not in a negative way, but we were doing different things in our lives. We had Star, who went to law school, Dr. T, who, had her own business and had remarried. I mean, so many different things that were happening with us. And then me, who, I'm pretty much, damn near getting divorced, and I'm just, life is life, and I'm doing other things. I'm having fun. I've lost all this weight. I'm entering this new space of life in a new body that I've never necessarily been in, and I'm losing my mind. Like I'm experiencing myself in a way that I hadn't experienced. I'm, being able to have different emotions, and, and fell in love, and all these other different things that I just, was a process for me, and was something that I think very much needed to go through in terms of, part of that journey, part of someone's story. Everyone has a story in terms of how they've gotten to where they have. And so that was just part of mine. And so then in coming back together and having my baby, and then just taking that time off to really reflect and really see, visually, just where we are in terms of social media, in terms of, fighting internet gangsters and things that people have to say, and just losing the focus of the positivity. And again, that purpose, I had to make a decision in terms of, getting back to the root. And the foundation, as I mentioned before, was wanting to help people, wanting to share different experiences, wanting to be able to say like, yo, I can help you get through this. And it's not for, anything that I need, but it's like, I want to see my community. I want to see people succeed. I want to see people win. I want to see people know what resources are available to them. And so, for example, I mean, things that I'll talk about in reference to like PCOS and and again, what it was like in terms of having that significant weight loss. And with the PCOS, there were moments I didn't have periods for months. And so my Chinese herbalist actually was the reason in which that started changing my cycles. And so just providing different insight into resources that are available that sometimes a lot of people don't know about. Professionally, finding a renewed interest. Like professionally, I do contracts. I help people, help small businesses in terms of understanding proposal writing, and also, issuing actual awards and things like that. And so understanding that there's a lot of value that I think we often have that we're not necessarily cognizant of in terms of what we do as everyday people, because I was so focused in like, but I want to do this. I want to wake up every day and create. Um, and I think some of us are very fortunate and lucky when that creation can turn into profit, when that creation is something that can drive us and fuel us and pay the bills. But and sometimes it can, with consistency, turn into that. But oftentimes, I think that maybe we're not focusing in the right areas in seeing that there's so many other things that we also are as people that can translate into momentum and into revenue for us. And so I actually took a step back and looked at, man, like all this professional stuff I'm doing, like, why have I never really explored that avenue in the way that I should? And so it's been a lot of different, just complete inner healing and seeking. And even with the healing part, like I would think, oh, like I'm good. I've consistently gone to therapy and didn't realize that there were still so many trigger points that were so unhealed that, just when you think that you're kind of over the mountain, all of a sudden it'd be the smallest rock that'll knock your ass off. So you have to really look at also that consistency of your journey, of your inner healing journey. And I've spoken to that so much. People know that I'm very much about that, because it really matters in the context of how we are as people, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to other people, how we receive things, how we think about things, just the angst, the fear. I mean, so many different avenues. And so I say all of that to say that finally, overcoming even my own fear of like getting back on camera and having opinions and perspectives and sharing different ideas and sharing different ways that could potentially help someone is still like, it's still scary for me at times, because everyone sometimes is not going to welcome what you have to say. And so when you are putting it out in that social media realm, you definitely got to have some strong bones to you, right? And understand that for some people this avenue of negativity is fun for them. And so for me, also even falling back from social media, like I want to see, everything's not going to be positive. So let's just be honest there. But for me, in terms of what I'm talking about, what I want to see, what I'm putting out, what I want to read about, what I want to hear about, I've had to also shape that messaging, like, in having all of the different aspects of like gossip or negative stuff about people who are failing, like that's not something that's going to propel wins for me, right? You can learn some lessons from people, but it's not something that I think I want to. That's not what I'm a part of. That's not what I'm about, right? Like I'm about like sharing the ways that, hey, learn from these mistakes, but also here's how you can win. I'm not about the whole like, oh yeah, let's talk about the gossip that's going on with the latest celebrity or any of that. Like that's just not me. But those are avenues that people are definitely fulfilling and like doing and stuff of that nature. But for me, and going forward in terms of my lane, will be very consistent with what it's always been about, and that's about just various different experiences in terms of from a small business and things that you should and shouldn't do, from contract, different questions that someone might have, from again sharing that journey from the weight loss or PCOS, from the motherhood journey of being older, and what do some of these changes and different things look like, from just all things that perpetuate defining what success looks like for someone. And because that's subjective, it all looks different to everybody. And so I would say I want to be ambitious and be like, oh, every week because there's so many different things that I could talk about, but I don't know, right? And so but for right now, ideally, I know for sure that I definitely want to release different things every 2 weeks, but the goal maybe be every week. But now it's not about, who views it. Now it's not about that, oh, it has to be strategic. It has to have this content. And I mean, I definitely was one of those people who got caught up in what I was seeing and the comparison and not wanting to be complacent and wanting to have that continued momentum rather than focusing on the mission. And it's so cliche because you'll hear people say, well, if you focus on the mission, you focus on what you love, and you're like, what? I mean, and it really is true. When you focus on the mission, it feels different. And it may not reach everybody, and it may not make you any money, but from a purpose driven place and from a place of really finding the intention of your morale and just your values and who you are and the direction that you're going, it definitely rings true in terms of, focusing on that and leaving the intricacies of like it having to be perfect and it needs to look like this behind. And what you'll see is when people have that consistency of that focus, that is when it transforms into something that's just so much greater than probably what they've imagined. And so my intention will be to definitely be very clear and succinct in terms of certain topics that I'll be talking about. It'll be a video and then also audio release. And I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of get back in the swing of things. It's taken some time to kind of also like get back into me, finding me, just as a mother, like as a new mother again, because you go through so many different ideas of yourself, of your body, of just the way that you want to feel. Like it's a different avenue when you're like once again going through this process of taking care of someone who needs everything night and day, and then just also like finding yourself beautiful again. Or there's so many different emotions that happens with pregnancy, not just for women but even for men. There's a lot of emotions that I think women don't also acknowledge that men go through too, in terms of having a baby and what life looks like for them and those changes. And so it's gonna be a great ride, I think, and I'm excited to be moving back in a direction on where it started, on just the purpose driven place of the focus of like, hey, like there's a great message to share, and I'm happy to share that. And I'm happy to be in a space where it's more about being present in the moments that I'm having rather than constantly focusing on having to share them. Because I think when you are in that space, there's a lot of moments you miss with people. There's a lot of moments you miss with your children. There's a lot of moments you miss with your significant other. There's a lot of moments you miss just as a person, because you're not even recognizing just the emotions and energy and everything that you feel and are when you're entering spaces, because you're thinking about what to capture. And I got to tell you, sometimes the greatest moments are the ones that aren't captured.